But then how could Blackburn know that Penelope would leave work early? Unless he was just waiting, watching for her to go. Perhaps, Miles conceded. But then there's the money that was stolen from the escrow accounts. There is no sign that Barnaby ever had it, which makes me wonder where it went, or if he even took it. Miles's gaze was unwavering. We checked, Arthur, and there is one other person at the firm who has access to those accounts, and that is you. Arthur Finch's face paled. I'm sorry, I don't get what you're implying here. Miles walked over to a locked cabinet in Arthur's office. I suspect that if I open this, I'm gonna find $2 million. He waited. Tell me where she is, Arthur. Arthur Finch sputtered, then regained a semblance of composure. I believe I have the right to remain silent. You also have the right to be a decent human being, Miles retorted, his voice rising. Talk to Blackburn. He's your doctor. Blackburn's not gonna crack, and you know it. So far, you've had him do all your dirty work. But this time, it is you who is gonna let Penelope die. You really wanna do that? Ask yourself. Aparama si. Isela. Wa. Isela. Arthur Finch's facade crumbled. His shoulders slumped. She's in an abandoned machine shop in the Golds. Miles didn't wait. He was out the door, Buster hot on his heels. They found Penelope, shaken but alive, in the dank, musty confines of the machine shop. Buster, with his usual calm competence, nudged her hand, offering comfort. You see, Miles explained to Penelope later, after she was safe and recovering. When you went to Arthur to talk about the missing funds, he saw a way out of his troubles. He hired Earl Blackburn to kidnap you and framed it to make it look like Barnaby did it. Then Arthur had Blackburn kill Barnaby, betting the investigation into the missing funds would end with Barnaby's death. Then he and Blackburn would split the ransom. Penelope shuddered. So they were gonna kill me too. Barnaby told me he had nothing to do with the missing money, Miles said, looking at her with genuine regret. It's only now I believe him. A few days later, Miles was back at Clara Bellwether's house. Leo was playing with Buster in the yard, a rare smile gracing his face. How's Leo doing? Miles asked Clara. Better. She smiled, watching her son. He's out of the shell he went into. I think a lot of that has to do with Buster. Buster understood Leo in a way none of us could. Miles agreed, watching his partner patiently endure Leo's attempts to braid his fur with dandelions. It's good to have a Buster, Clara said softly. Miles nodded. Sure is. Asterisk. Asterisk. Chapter 2. The Spear of the Salty Siren. Asterisk. Asterisk. Miles Corbin hated yachts. He hated the way they bobbed pretentiously in the water. He hated the tiny, overpriced cocktails, and he especially hated the kind of people who owned them, which was why he was currently standing on the deck of the Salty Siren, trying very hard not to look seasick, while Buster, naturally, was having the time of his life, sniffing every rope and plank with boundless enthusiasm. So, what do we have, Sarah? Miles asked, addressing his forensic expert, who looked surprisingly at home on a yacht, probably due to her general air of unshakable competence. Reginald Fitzwilliam, a venture capitalist from the mainland, Sarah reported, gesturing to a covered body bag, shot by a spear gun. Angle of penetration suggests the shooter could have been anywhere between 5'4" and 5'10", which, in Port Blossom, is half the population. Miles sighed. And the murder weapon? Forensics searched the yacht, divers searched the bottom around the boat. But no, nothing, Sarah replied, pulling a pair of latex gloves onto her hands. I'm having the body taken down for a full autopsy. Any motives? Well, at first take, it could be robbery, Sarah mused. He was wearing a rather ostentatious watch, but it's missing. His wife, Eleanor, says it was a fake, a reproduction, but very sentimental. Witnesses? Miles asked, already feeling a headache brewing. Fitzwilliam's wife, Eleanor, and his business partner, Seraphina Thorne, have been moved to the Meridian Hotel, Sarah informed him. The yacht's captain, Octavia Tavi Kraken, was on board, as well as 2 deckhands, Daisy Bloom and Skip Skipper. Miles raised an eyebrow. Skip Skipper? You're joking. Sarah offered a rare, dry smile. I assure you, detective, I am not. All right, Jesse, Miles called into his comms. Put out a bolo on Skipper. Killer or not, he's definitely a person of interest. Captain Tavi Kraken, a woman whose weathered face and steely gaze suggested she'd wrestled more than her share of sea monsters, was less than impressed with the situation. A murder on my boat? Never. And with such an obnoxious client too. Always rude to his business partner and his wife. Absolutely awful to me and my crew. Did you see anything, Captain? Miles asked, trying to keep his footing as the yacht swayed gently. No, I was in the bridge, teaching Daisy how to work the sonar. Tavi replied, her voice gruff. Skip was in the galley cutting fruit. You know, when I went downstairs, he disappeared. And that's when I heard Fitzwilliam's wife screaming. She paused. One more thing, detective. You said Fitzwilliam was killed with a spear gun. We don't normally carry spear guns on this yacht. With the clients I get, I don't mix alcohol and spear guns. Miles nodded. That was a good point. Daisy Bloom, the deckhand, was sweet-faced and nervous. Mr. Fitzwilliam was rude, and he kept hitting on me, even in front of his wife. It made me mad, sure, but I didn't kill him. It wouldn't even cross my mind. She wrung her hands. Skip, he's a good guy. But Mr. Fitzwilliam, he treated everyone badly. His wife, his partner. It's like he enjoyed hurting people. Eleanor Fitzwilliam, surprisingly composed for a grieving widow, corroborated the difficult nature of her late husband. Jake Reginald was a different man behind closed doors. We found a way to make things work. He was meeting with a man named Professor Quentin Quibble, who wanted them to invest in his software product, but Reginald said he wouldn't do it. Professor Quibble seemed more crushed than angry, though. Jake, once he'd made up his mind, was impossible to change. She then described the missing watch, a reproduction of a gold 1966 diving watch. Mahogany case, deerskin suede liner, one of a kind. He only ever took it off to sleep, and he always put it in that case by the bed. Miles took the case. This might be important. Buster, can you work with this? Buster, sniffing the case with intense concentration, gave a definitive bark. Jesse, meanwhile, had done a deep dive on Skipper. Blaine Selby, actually. Has a record for break and enter and burglary. Flew off the radar 4 years ago. Or maybe he's just better at not getting caught. Jesse pulled up surveillance footage. Here's the salty siren just after lunch. There's Professor Quibble leaving the boat. 30 minutes later, Veronica Goodwin. Serafina Thorne. The partner leaves, and then... There, that's Skip Selby running off the boat, an hour after Quibble, and minutes before the body was found. So Skip brings Fitzwilliam a drink, kills him, steals the watch, and then waits an hour before running away? Miles mused. But if Fitzwilliam was killed with a spear gun, and the boat doesn't carry one, where did it come from? And Skip didn't have it with him when he came to work. Sarah's forensics report landed on Miles's desk. Kaufman was killed by the spear. The only thing is, the spear was coated in seawater. Combination of sea salt and ocean bacteria confirms it. Scuba equipment would be cleaned after use, right? Miles pondered. The salt would corrode the metal, so it wasn't stored on the boat. Maybe Skip hid it in the water another day? A lot of planning for a petty thief, Sarah noted. Miles and Buster made their way to Skip Selby's basement apartment. It was a mess, clearly tossed. Blaine, you are so under arrest, Miles declared as they found Skip, trying to sneak out the back. I didn't kill anybody. Skip protested, looking genuinely terrified. I ran because I knew they'd look into my background and I'd get blamed. I had just gone back to my place and found that someone had trashed it. I didn't know who you were. What do you think they were looking for? Miles asked. How should I know? Nothing's made any sense today. Skip insisted. I didn't kill him and I didn't take any watch, but I hated him, yeah. The guy was the worst. Everybody hated him. He was always flaunting his money, thinking he could do anything he wanted to anyone.